So, just as I promised yesterday, as more news comes out in the transfer portal, we'll be here to wade through it all. And today, we need to talk about a former top quarterback coming out of high school, JT Daniels, finding a new home with West Virginia, as well as a former defensive lineman who transitioned to offensive line for Texas A&M, Derrick Hunter Jr., entering his name into the transfer portal. We need to break it all down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited for what the future holds for JT Daniels and the Mountaineers? Let me know what you're thinking. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification because I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And we're on our push to 15,000 subscribers. And I'd love to have you a part of our community. And if you enjoyed this content, like and comment down below. But with all that being said, let's hop right into this. And we need to start with JT Daniels, a former top player coming out of the nation in high school, and he was someone who every institution in the nation was intrigued by, and for good reason. When you go back, some things stand out about JT Daniels. First and foremost, how quick his release was. Secondly, the arm talent. He had the ability to make all the throws and do so with confidence, and that translated to USC as a freshman. Now, yes, he had freshman mistakes, but what you instantly saw was why so many people were excited and so confident in his ability. It was very apparent, and going into this sophomore campaign, that confidence carried over. However, unfortunately, he was injured early in his sophomore season, which led him to transfer to Georgia, where many expected him to be the heir apparent. However, that's not how it ended up playing out, as Stetson Bennett ended up leading the Georgia Bulldogs to a national championship. And even through it all, there were many within the Georgia fan base who questioned whether Stetson was the right guy and questioned whether or not they'd be able to see JT Daniels complete passes for the Dogs. Inevitably, when Stetson Bennett won that national championship, it forced JT Daniels back into the transfer portal once again, a very talented prospect who now calls West Virginia home. So what does this mean for West Virginia? What does this mean for JT Daniels? Well, first and foremost, the thing I love the most about this is actually Graham Harrell being at West Virginia now, someone who has a familiarity with JT Daniels and understands how to have success with Daniels. As I keep saying, Daniels is a very talented prospect, and if you put him in an environment that's conducive to success, he's going to be able to light it up, and especially if West Virginia can establish the run game and make sure they can keep Daniels protected. If you give him the time to make the throws, he's got all the arm talent you could want, and with West Virginia bringing in Graham Harrell, with him having that understanding, I think they're going to look to put JT Daniels in the best case possible for success. Hopefully we see that. I'm going to be rooting for him because I also think it's interesting another wrinkle has been added into the Big 12, a league that has so many wrinkles in it thus far. And let's break it all down, because when we're talking about the Big 12 right now and all the wrinkles within it, we have to understand the coaching overhaul that happened at OU. And though OU is very confident in what they have, it doesn't take away from all that they lost and all the chaos they've gone through. It's still going to be something to watch. Then you have Texas that has had so much chaos for the past decade, and they're trying to right the ship. Iowa State is looking to replace such a large portion of their offense in quarterback and running back, not to mention the other pieces they need to replace. You go to Oklahoma State, somewhere that relied on their defense last year, but is looking to replace senior pieces of that defense who either left, hit the transfer portal, and then inevitably have to replace their defensive coordinator who now finds his way to Ohio State. So the Big 12 is full of stories, and this is another wrinkle that was just added in it. And I am really excited to not only have college football back, but to see all these storylines play out. So I'm really interested in hearing from y'all about West Virginia and about JT Daniels. But our story doesn't end there, because it's not all about addition. Sometimes there is subtraction, and in the case of Texas A&M, they're set to lose a very intriguing prospect, someone who came to them just outside the top 300 players in the nation, but had very apparent athletic ability. Someone who came to them as a defensive lineman, but showed how athletic he was by transitioning to the offensive side of the ball, in Derrick Hunter Jr., who hails from Florida. Now, the interesting thing and the natural inclination when you see Hunter Jr. enter the transfer portal is to think, okay, well, the Florida schools should go get him. And you'd be 100% right in thinking that. Both Miami and Mario Cristobal, Florida with Billy Napier, and then Florida State, all of which are programs that are looking to turn their futures around. All of which are programs that could use the extra depth, the extra talent that Hunter Jr. would provide, plus he's an intriguing athlete. So I don't see a downside in one, him returning home, and two, if those programs are going to be able to try and get him. It's all about if he's interested. But it's going to be interesting to see where Derrick Hunter Jr. ultimately ends up. I've said consistently here recently, I don't expect offensive linemen to sit in the portal long, especially when you look at how these guys come out of high school, where it's very typical for these guys to sit and wait a year for multiple different reasons. First and foremost, the massive difference in size, strength, and speed required, not to mention technique. So usually these guys come in, they sit a year in the strength and conditioning program, let their bodies grow out, and then they're much more ready from a physical standpoint, and that's not even to talk about knowing the plays, knowing the offense. It's such a strenuous position that it's not surprising when guys have to sit, marinate, and learn the system for a bit. And because of that, that leads for the opportunities for offensive linemen who may be in the transfer portal to find a home. So it is something we have to watch. So I'm very interested in hearing from all of you on both fronts. Let me know what you're thinking about JT Daniels. Let me know what you're thinking about Derrick Hunter Jr. Can't wait to hear from y'all. That's it. See ya.